seeing.
Wow.
That's what it says. Right? I think it's happening. It's all
Think it's
happening.
happening? Think we're live? Oh, we are live. Okay, yeah, I see it now. I'm going to stay on.
Yes.
All right. Yay. Okay, this is our first success. This is so great. We're going to talk about perfectionism today because this would be like so in my wheelhouse of like, okay, that did not work right. That was not how it's supposed to work. And I would like get all wrapped around the axles about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I just want to say welcome to everyone that has shown up. And I want to say thank you to Patty and all of those that have been so generous and hanging out while Nicole and I chatted and obviously didn't have technical things worked out. This is Nicole Kaufman. I'm Kim Benjamin, and we want to welcome you to Smart Women, Wrong Life. And we're going to talk about some fun things today. I'm going to see if I can actually share a screen. I'm going to see what happens with that. Because, you know, I just really like to make things complicated.
Of course. It's happening. Look,
it's
look at you go. Look at you go.
I'm feeling so successful already. I mean, you know, really. I was off by an hour time-wise. I don't know if you guys joined early. If you did, then you actually heard me sharing that with Nicole, where I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's right. It's Eastern time. Being in France. So we're talking today about how to un-perfect, unapologize, and un-F your life.
And F does not necessarily mean fantastic. Un-F as in un-F.
Un-F.
Right.
We're not undoing things today, as you can see.
Yes. Yes.
And welcome, Blanche.
Yay, Blanche is here.
Okay, so
right. Here we go.
Here we go. We're here for the party. So I just started off with I wanted to ask you guys a little story. Like, what happens when a self-sufficient woman with lots of empathy talks herself out of self-preservation? I think about it. Smart women, you're kind, you're generous, you're accomplished, and you do what? You start to think like, oh well, oh well, they whatever. We start to make excuses for everyone in our life, right? And so Nicole and I both have our own personal stories about this. And what I discovered personally is that woman has a tendency to lose everything that she worked to create. And sometimes the one thing that matters more to her than anything else, herself, because she cares too much, right? I mean, who could really believe that someone that loves you or professes to love you would ever do things like cheat on you or, you know, take money from you or try to prevent you from doing something that's really important to you? And here's the thing. I don't believe that intentionally what happens is that other people in our life set out to destroy us, even our partners in our life. What I believe is we are overly compassionate and overly giving, and we are. That it sets up a dynamic where all of that empathy that we have and all those things that we tell ourselves, like Nicole, you can jump in here, like when you're smart women. Have you ever said to yourself, well, if I'm so smart, then how did I get here? If I'm so smart, then what happened? If I'm so smart, then what's next?
Yeah, if I'm so smart, why isn't everything working out like they all said it was going to? Right? Go to school, get a good education, get a job. That will be wonderfully fulfilling. And oh, you have kids, you can do it all. You can have all of that. And it'll just fall into place seamlessly, right? And then life happens, and it doesn't. In all of your efforts and all of your perfectionism and all trying to make it all come together, and you're like, is this it? Is this what I worked so hard for? Yeah. You know, not so much. Well, and then you're sitting here going, well, now what? Right? Or if you know, I was the first person in my peer group to get divorced. I was, you know, just in my early 30s. And you know, everybody was aghast, right? That, oh, I was divorcing. You know, it was almost unheard of. And, but I was in free fall. I didn't know what to do. My parents weren't divorced at that time. They eventually got divorced, but I didn't know any divorced people. I didn't know how you even went through this. So, you know, as self-sufficient as I was, feeling out of my depth, feeling like I didn't know what was happening. Yeah, been there, done that. And, you know, show of hands, I'm looking at the chat. Oh yeah, great idea to, if you haven't muted your microphone, if you can, that'd be awesome. Just so that we get the background noise kind of muted. But how many of you guys have started over? I mean, and when I like left the relationship, you left the country, you left your house, you left the state you lived in. Maybe several of you have done that. I've done it numerous times. Very humbling experience. Very, just, you know, I can't even tell you. Perfectionism, the people pleasing, all of that just fades because you're kind of in survival mode. So maybe you're at a place right now, you're trying to reinvent your life. You're trying to figure out, what am I actually doing? What am I, you know, here for? What is my purpose? And why haven't all of my efforts up until this point, like, gotten me where I need to go? And, you know, that's what we're doing. Kim, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, the sound is a little wonky, but yeah, that's exactly why we're here.
Okay, cool.
For me, I'm kind of getting some feedback, and it's a little, you know, it's a little time delayed, but
Okay.
we're here to talk about that next step, because if you are older than 25, you've experienced some form of disappointment, some form of, wow, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be. And if you're in that place, and you've been in that place for a while, then we're here to tell you that we've both been to that place. We have both been, well, I'll just talk about myself. You know, I've been married multiple times, and I had a woman ask me once, why should I trust you as a relationship coach when you've been divorced twice? And I said, well, because I can tell you exactly what you don't do. And that's exactly why we're here today. We've both moved a lot, reinvented ourselves. And you have that story like, okay, I'm doing all the things. I'm working really hard. I take care of everything. I'm self-sufficient. I'm smart. I have multiple degrees. I mean, like, you keep doing more and more and more. And that feeling that you're hoping to gain inside keeps getting further and further away. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is like how you make it out of that place. We're going to talk about three things today. Perfectionism, which is basically detachment from being in favor of doing. For me, it is all about when we have separated ourselves from like what we're actually feeling and who we actually are, because we have a concept or a belief about what is going to create the feeling that we want to feel. And what we keep doing is we keep going further and further and faster, and it just becomes this never-ending cycle. And I'll give you a beautiful, beautiful example. I currently live in France. I have a beautiful life, and I have a wonderful partner. But I actually told his mother, I said, Christian is my ex-husband's twin brother from another mother. This is how deeply ingrained our patterns become, and we don't see them. And I use human design as a self-assessment tool, and I believe that energetically we're drawn to certain people. Like, we date certain types of people. We have a tendency to, we just like see someone and there's an attraction. And so we don't understand like how when we get into a relationship with someone who's totally different. I mean, like someone thousands of miles away in a totally different culture than mine. And you end up creating the same type of patterns in your relationships. So part of that is a perfectionistic tendency to want to get it right. So we're repeating ourselves. And Nicole really can talk to you a lot about this, about, you know, how the mind works and how we get into that programming situation. But for me, it is part of being detached from who we are to do something.
Absolutely. And I'll talk on it further, but the other, two sides of the same coin. Perfectionism can also be used as an attempt at proving to yourself that you are competent and confident, right? So if we can get it perfect, then we can give ourselves the grace of being competent at whatever it is we're doing. And that self-approval, then I'm okay. But up until that point, I'm not, right? So, this is something I battle with, I personally, on the dailies. It's so bad. So bad. And oh yeah, specifically when it comes to my work, I became a therapist later in life. I pinballed from all different sorts of careers, sales related. I was in real estate for 17 years. I have an education degree. I taught high school, English classes. I've done so many different things. I was in the mortgage business for a little while. I was in corporate sales, and eventually ended up to this degree. And part of me still thinks that it was a fluke that I got the degree. Even though I had a 4.0 GPA all through graduate school while, navigating one of the nastiest custody battles like ever. I still think sometimes that maybe I don't deserve a degree. So what do I do for that? I take another continuing education class. I've got so many continuing education hours, and it's almost compulsive because I do it to prove to myself that I am competent at what I do. And I have to keep myself from signing up and spending hundreds of dollars on the CEs because I know that I'm actually, I am competent, but I just need this one more class because what if there's something that I don't know, right? So brief story about me, perfectionism. It's very close to home. That's just one area. I will share others as we talk further. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, it's what drives us inside. Now, again, because I use the human design as an assessment tool, there are certain energies that we have that actually will drive us to want to know more. It's in our profile. Like, that's part of my profile. Like, I can't share this until I know everything. But what if I get it wrong? And I would honestly say that that's probably what drives my perfectionistic tendencies. Is the worst fear to me would be like getting it wrong. Like, I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to share something with someone and discover, oh my gosh, I was wrong. And until we get to that place where what we're doing is sufficient, and it all comes back to self-trust. How much do I trust myself? How much do I trust that the people who love me enough that, well, for you guys that were here early, you got to see like firsthand, couldn't get the tech to work, tried it out yesterday. And in another lifetime, that would have really upset me. I probably would have become so flustered that nothing else would have worked. The truth is, we made it here and everything is great, but it is a tendency to drive yourself to prove. And I totally agree with that about being competent, because especially if we're struggling in our personal relationships, in any type of relationship, then we're going to look at ourselves and we're going to wonder what's wrong with us. Now, in my experience, we have a tendency to, there's got to be somebody to blame. If it's not working, it's got to be one of us, right? And if we can't demonize him, then it's got to be me. Now, he may deserve being demonized, but the point is, when we get okay with ourselves, when we get to that place where we can just go, oh, okay, yeah, I'm probably gonna, I don't know, I may have a bad day today, I may mess that up, and we can let that go, then that begins to heal what's inside. Now, we're also going to talk about pleasing, because wow, those are totally interchangeable. And that's a denial of our own pleasure, which is what, Nicole was just talking about. It's about competence and confidence. And when we don't have those things, like we think we know what we feel, we think we know what we want, but the truth is, when you peel back the layers, very often we don't, because we're willing to put up with things that are way beneath what we should be putting up with, that are way beneath the relationships that we deserve, that are way beneath the life that we are worthy of living. And they were
There you
talking about
go.
loss of purpose, which is low self-worth, decreased self-value, and unsure identity. So here we go, girls. This is just a brief history about Nicole and I. We actually met 7 years ago, and it was part of this whole drive that brought us together, I think. It was like an automatic thing. I was taking a course that she was actually a part of. I was actually flying to the US from France to be a part of this very, very expensive business course. And Nicole was a key component. She was a speaker. And we just met like after the class one day and we just kind of hit it off. And we have both been through any number of things and have talked about this for like 7 years. Because as we've each experienced, like, wow, what happened? I was up here and then this happened and then this happened. And like as we began to overcome those things, we kept saying, we really need to share this. We really need to talk about like what's possible. Because there's so many women out there, I feel, that I talk to every day, even on the airplane, flying back and forth to France. People will start telling me their story. And it's like we're all in a lot of pain for different reasons. We're all dealing with something. We're all struggling with something. And my belief is that when we understand that our emotions, that pain is driving us, then when we become aware of that, then we have the opportunity to actually dive into like, how can I meet this? How can I go forward in this? And in my experience also, the thing is we all think that we're alone. We're the only ones dealing with this. And so we have a tendency to isolate ourselves. And that's one of the worst things that happens is we're not only denying ourselves, but we're denying anyone else that can support us.
Absolutely. Yeah, just to kind of riff on that a little bit, it, you know, like I said before, we've been sold this bill of goods is that if we do all of these things, and it's all just going to come together. And it may have. I work with, people action oriented. They've got a plan for their life. Their life is, by all appearances, quite together. And it, like Kim was saying, they have beautiful lives. They're well resourced. It seems a lot of people plain vanilla background, not a hard scrabble upbringing, stuff like that. But then, they're like, my relationship, I can't get it all to work. I'm locked in on my career. Relationship, not so much. And I don't do couples counseling on the regular, but inevitably we talk about relationships. I mean, am I what's wrong with the relationship? Is it them or is it me? Right? So, how to navigate that and get that to come to a place that makes sense and design a life that works for you, not for everybody else, i.e.
Right.
pleasing, but what works for you. So
Thank
yeah.
you for adding that because that's so, so important. So I just have a screen up here. You guys are welcome to read it. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. This is a little bit of the bio. This is my bio and Nicole's and how we actually came together. So this gives you a little insight and you will get this in a recording. So that'll give you a little more time to read through it. I've mentioned before that, I use human design. And so there's a lot about my human design type here. And what Nicole said is so true. And this was something I think that's a key component in the work that we do is I don't believe that there is a one generalized fix for everyone. I think that that's a common misnomer is people say, well, if you just do this, well, if you just learn how to communicate, if you just do this, if you just do this. And I think that's what drives perfectionism. My personal opinion is like we're trying so hard to emulate what someone else has told us is going to be successful for us that it literally burns us into the ground. Because the truth is no one is like you. No one has had your experiences. No one has your gifts, your skills. You're a completely unique, special human being. And until you can be met in that place and you can be understood from there and you can begin to see what that is, then that's how you begin to take that step forward. So it isn't a one size fits all. And I think that was one of the things for me that really brought us together was that common thread of really understanding like, this isn't how it looks. My story, to give you a little example, is when I became a coach in 2015, actually, I started off as a creativity coach. I did that because when I found my own creativity, when I started writing books, it supported me to get back in touch with myself. And it was the catalyst for my divorce, which doesn't sound like a happy ending, but the truth was I had been in a relationship where I really didn't understand and didn't know myself and was allowing myself to fall into patterns that I was just following him around and working harder and doing more and doing more. And I look back on those years and I go, I don't know how the heck I did all the stuff that I did. But I kept doing the same thing. I went back to school and studied art and I did all, multiple degrees and all kinds of certifications. And so I started off as a creativity coach. And what happened was people kept coming to me and there would be this little caveat, like Nicole said. They'd say, oh, well, maybe after I write my book, we can talk about just for a few minutes, like my relationship. And it was fascinating to me because our sense of identity, in my experience, seems to revolve around whether we're lovable. And we base that on whether someone loves us. And so we have a tendency to accept behaviors because, oh, well, he loves me. Oh, well, they love me. Oh, well, this. And what happens in that process is that we totally lose who we are. So I've come full circle from being an author and a creativity writing coach into being a relationship coach because I finally realized that what really supports all of us is our relationship with ourselves. It's how much we lean into our own worthiness, how much we lean into our own trust. And that can only be developed when we get to know more about who we are.
And can I just say too, this is why him and I are together like peanut butter and chocolate, right? Because, here I am from the, clinical mental health side of looking at evidence-based, research around relationship, around personality, everything from Gottman theory to Terry Real and his work to Jordan Peterson and his work around personality. I bring all of these things into my practice, yet there's so much more, right? There's so much more beyond just, the clinical things that we kind of look at for explaining who we are and designing a life, right? And, that's where human design has so many great intersection points with all of these different theories that are highly documented as far as being effective for addressing communication and relationship, discovering one's personality. So that's pretty much where I go with this too. How can we be the change that we want to see in our lives, in our relationships, right? And get it together in a way that is not all about the other person, but more of it from a place of, okay, I'm finally aligning with, my inner precepts, my moral code, my sense of virtue and purpose. So, yeah, and there's the book. There's the book.
Beautiful. I was a beautiful intro. I absolutely love that. So,
right?
Yes, totally support what Nicole had to say. I mean, I have done I began a certification with Gottman, and so this is in no way to say that I use all of those things. I mean, I was a coach. I was a coach for 5 years before I ever even discovered human design. And when I did, I was very reticent to even look at it because it looked so complicated and I couldn't see how it could align with all of the principles that I believe in, which is basically, our thoughts create our emotions and our emotions are what drive our action. I mean, it kind of boils down into simplistic terms like that. So changing our thoughts, changing our perception, working on how we communicate with other people to share that is all fundamental to the work that I do too. And so it was a challenge for me actually to kind of integrate that and kind of put that as a centerpiece for assessment, because that's basically how I use it. And so exactly, beautifully put. And here we are. So I put this up here, Nicole didn't even mention that when I was making this PowerPoint presentation. She just went, oh, yeah, well, I guess I could say something about my book. And then I looked it up on Amazon, and I confess I haven't even read this. We had talked about this, and I haven't even read it.
So I just put it together a few years ago during a time of intense struggle for myself. And it was born out of necessity because I'm one of those people, kind of like I said before, okay, let me try all the things. I'm going to do tapping. I'm going to take a bunch of supplements. I'm also going to, go down the rabbit hole on, I don't know, Dr. Joe Dispenza maybe. And we'll pull all of those things and see if I can't get it right? And as we all know, when you do the mathing like that many variables, you don't know what's working, right? So I boiled it down and I was like, let's just do one thing. Let's change one thing for 30 days and see how it works. Let's change one thing. And that's where Balance Your Bliss kind of came out, is so that I could try to see what was working, because there were too many things that weren't working. There were too many things that were, beyond me at the time. And writing this book was a way to try to make sense of it all. So it is not, it was life changing for me to write it at the time. I don't profess that it's life changing for anybody else, but here it is. I put it out there, and there's some good stuff in there, and it's research based. I promise it's research based. So there we have it.
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love the way too that it's beautiful. When I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, look at you. Like, this is so absolutely perfect. And so I'm the one that put it up there. Also, to add to that, since Nicole shared that, it was life changing for you to write that book. So I threw up here, it was life changing for me to write these two books. And that brings us back to the main thing that we want to talk about. Because what is going to impact you, what is going to give you the peace, I'm going to say, the satisfaction, the success, to understand what is in the gap between where you are and where you want to be. For me, that means what you actually feel and what you want to feel. And that brings it into an understanding in the work that I do of, what am I willing to accept about myself? What am I willing to know about myself? What am I willing to admit? What am I willing to look at? Like, what is the cost that I'm willing to go? Like, what am I willing to explore? And I happen to believe that writing and creativity and pursuing your passion, which is why we're talking about perfectionism, passion, and purpose all in one talk, are key drivers. We can drop the perfectionism when we're actually pursuing something that we're passionate about, when we're not working against ourselves to get it right in a way that isn't working for us. And so I'm going to let Nicole talk a little bit about how in her work it comes down to like the practices that she uses in mindset and reframing, and some of the key things that she uses in addressing perfectionism.
Sure. So, with perfectionism, getting it right, getting it even perfect, and cliche as it sounds, there is no such thing as perfect, right? And if you are an action-oriented, goal-directed individual, you know that you keep moving the goalpost on yourself, and you do it daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and it's all, I'm striving, but I'm never arriving, right? I'm going to keep trying, but I just never really get there type of thinking. So, when you work with this, with your personality, with who you are, and, get down to it for yourself, a lot of this has a link to a fear of failure, but also it's linked to a fear of success, right? Because what if things actually did work out? And here's the thing here, and it's almost insidious in a way, because they are going to work out somehow. And you're going to figure it out along the way. It may not be in the way that you thought, but it's going to be what it is. And then we're going to deal with that, right? We'll put our best effort forward, and then we will deal with that, and one step at a time.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I just think that's absolutely perfect. It just
Mhm.
it's it's just an email about reframing. I mean, it's so
Mhm.
so yes, we have a negativity bias, so it takes like 5 positive things to overset one negative thing. But how often, and I just want you guys to think about this, how often do you remember the things that happened in your day that were not good?
Mhm.
How
Always,
often?
always
Right.
those things.
Right. So it's kind of that moving the bar. So how
Mhm.
often do you go at the end of the day, wow, and you reflect on the good things that happened that day?
Mhm. Nope,
Right.
never happens. Never happens. Yeah. And you don't remember, the awesome things about the vacation. You remember the baggage delay and the day that it rained, right? It's so weird, but that's a survival mechanism, right? And that negativity bias, is hardwired in there.
Right.
And some people say, well, it's a driver. It's why I grind. It's why I'm able to take it. And okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But you can't bootstrap yourself forever, right? You can't just, self-flagellate and whip yourself over the finish line continually. That's not sustainable.
Right.
So we got to find what it is that keeps you going in a way that is supportive, that is helpful, that is validating, and that cheers you on rather than pushes you, right? And that is more sustainable. That is the opportunity for growth, not just get it done.
Right.
So that's, and I could go on and on.
Yes, exactly. No, it's so
Yeah.
true because it's and you mentioned it a minute ago. You said, you decided to do one thing. One thing.
Mhm.
Now, we both have some interesting stories, about relationships.
Mhm.
What happens for you guys when something goes south or when you're in a relationship that you're just not sure you can sustain and you're kind of waffling on that fence? I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to want to change everything. Like you said, you just want to do it all over. You want to run away. You want to go to a new country. You want to start a new job. You want to lose, 50 pounds. You want to start a new exercise regime. You want to do something that's going to change the way you feel inside. And it's still a pursuit of something outside of yourself rather than an acceptance of like what is possible for me, what can I do. So I love the fact that you brought up that you could do, like, I chose one thing to do for 30 days. And that sounds so frustrating when you're unhappy, when you're not in a good place, when you're actually in pain. You're like, that won't work for me, that's not going to give me the relief. And so how does it work when you try to change everything and then a week later it's not sustainable?
There
So
you go.
yes, that is exactly what leads to burnout, to overwhelm. Is, it's a feeling of I've got to get it, I've got to get it right, I've got to get it, as opposed to appreciating the fact that who you are right this very minute is absolutely worthy of receiving what it is that you want. And for me, the reason that I use human design as an assessment tool is because it talks a lot about different energies and how we respond to things. And according to human design, 70% of the population is an energy type that is more comfortable, and actually it's more sustainable for them to do things consecutively. This was a big beat up point for me. And when I discovered that my energy type works in big bursts, like the tortoise and the hare story, like that has always been my nemesis because I am the hare. Like, I'm going to run really, really fast and then I'm going to sleep under a tree. But me trying to continuously do like 5 things every single day is totally a burnout for me. I've done it. I've been through programs. I've been through leadership programs. I've been through something in a leadership program that basically felt like the Navy SEALs program. And I stayed up all night to do it because it was based in California and I was here in France. I mean, so I've done all of that. And then I woke up one day and I was like, why am I doing this? And so it really, for me, has been all about peeling back, like, what is my intention? What is my desire here? What lights me up? And as simplistic as that sounds, until we get back to that particular point, then we have a tendency, in my experience, to just keep grabbing what's outside of us and keep going for more and keep pushing and keep pushing. Because we can't accept the possibility that maybe what we think we should want is not what we really want.
Mhm.
You mentioned, Nicole, a really nasty custody battle, and I will tell you that I
Mhm.
honestly often said that I stayed married 20 years because I didn't want someone else to raise my child. I wanted him to
Mhm.
be an age. And that sounds so selfish, and I don't, who knows if we've ever done the right thing. But the truth is, there was so much guilt, just like you. There was so much guilt, like there must be something wrong with me. Because if you looked at my ex-husband on paper, like I said, here with, twin brother from another mother, but if you looked at him on paper, he was a good guy. He didn't have habits. He wasn't abusive. He was successful. He was attractive.
Mhm.
He looked like the all-American family. If you saw pictures of us, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, there's a Disney poster. And
Mhm.
inside, all I knew was that I was wrapping myself around an axle trying to do more to feel the way that I wanted to feel. And I was allowing his routine and his schedule and his needs and his demands. And I was telling myself, okay, well, you've got this, and this. You should do this, and this. And so understanding what each one of us is capable of and what we're here to do, because nobody else can do what we're here to do. So nobody else can tell us what we're supposed to be doing. So for me, as I just mentioned, perfectionism, passion, and purpose, they're all intertwined. And for me, passion became less fire and more peace.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. With the clients that I work with, it seems like the older the client, the more peace they are seeking in their lives. Younger client, change makers, fire, let's go, let's, burn it really fast, right? Is the passion. But, again, that sprinting early on in life or sprinting through your early career versus, all right, when are you tired? When are you asking, okay, is this it? But, does it feel peaceful to you? And that's we're not taught to seek that in our society. I just saw an interview with, I believe her name is Anna Lemke. She wrote Dopamine Nation. And we're taught to do the chase, and we're wired for dopamine based pleasure, right? Everything from your work, your relationship, to then scrolling Amazon or scrolling social media or gambling or workaholism or porn. All of these different things are avenues to dopamine. So, can the appropriate amounts of dopamine feel like peace in your life? I say yes. But that comes with intention and design
Mm-hmm.
of a life that, is not wearing you out, right? And so, it's not just like we said in our advertisement for today's meeting. You don't need another planner. It's not about time blocking or buying Trello, to project base your life. It's more of a feeling rather than a doing. And we'll say this over and over again. When I was in supervision for getting my therapy degree, my poor supervisor, I feel I wouldn't want to supervise me, but I would not. But she kept saying, you know, it's the feelings, it's not the doing. And I was like, oh, it's the doing. It's got to be the doing, and she, kept going back to that and back to that. And you're like, okay, but Nicole, you're a therapist. Isn't it all about the feelings? Well, it is kind of. Yes, it is. And right, and I want the doing part there too, right? Because that's how I'm wired. So that's the spin I'm bringing to therapy. But yeah, it keeps going back to that feeling of peace and being settled and grounded. And if you don't know what that feels like anymore, if you don't know, because if you can't feel that anymore, then the passion part of you, to me, is blocked. You don't even know what that is, right?
Yes.
And what does that look like? That looks like burnout. That looks like I'm not having sex with my partner anymore, or I don't have any sex drive, or sex. What is that? Or I don't know what I do for pleasure anymore. I really don't have any hobbies. I know what I should be. I should be working out more. I should be eating better and meal prepping, right? Where is passion in any of that? That's a to-do list, right? So, can we really get at what our mission in life is? Or, in I mission sounds so military, right? But at the same time, what are you trying to accomplish? What do you want? What do you want? And I mean, if we just sit with that for a little while, a lot of people will be like, I don't flipping know.
Right.
I don't
Exactly.
flipping know.
That is the first question I usually ask any client that I work with. I go, okay, so what is my role here? What is it you want?
Mhm.
And I have never met a single woman who could answer that question succinctly, instantaneously, that was about her. It could be about
Right.
the partner. Well, I want him to
Mhm.
stop doing so and so. I'm like, okay, that's beautiful, and I can respect that. What do you
Mhm.
want? Like when he stops
Mhm.
doing that, what is it that you want that makes you want him to stop doing that or to do
Mhm.
is something
Mhm.
you want. We're so, in my experience, so out of touch with that it
Mhm.
just we're completely detached. So I love the fact that you said, "What do you want?" and you don't have
Mhm.
any passion unless you can get to that place. What do I want? What do I want my days to look like? How do I want to feel about my partner? If you're single,
Mhm.
how do I want to feel about the possibility of a partner? How do I want to feel about dating? How do I want to feel? And this is not just intimate relationships. This is because how you do intimate relationships really is a reflection on how we are intimate with everyone in our life. It's our relationship standard. It's something that we may not see because we don't think about with siblings or friends or children or parents. But there are dynamics inside of us that really sort of set up like whether we can trust someone, whether we allow someone to help us, whether we can receive all of these things. And so when you say, what do you want? I've never literally had a woman be able to tell me succinctly what she wanted that was about her, that wasn't about her partner. And and it's perfect, Nicole. Yes, that you said you're doing. Okay, so if you're familiar with human design, I'm a manifester and Nicole is a manifesting generator. Manifesting generators are electric fireworks. They are full of energy, multi-passionate, multi-diverse. Like I'm so envious because like this energy type is the only one that was designed to multitask. The rest of us, we may have trained ourselves to do it, but I've learned for me, it's like, no, don't be talking to me while I'm writing something down because like one of those things is not going to happen. So that is another thing that leads to, for me, to denial when I get so busy doing and I'm not really paying attention to who I'm being or what I'm wanting. I can kind of lose touch with that. I don't know if that's true for the rest of you guys or whether I'm just talking off script here, but passion has a tendency for me to come back to, wow, how do I want to feel in the presence of this other person? How do I want to feel when I get up in the morning? What do I want to be excited about?
Awesome. All right, let's stay on pace, because I want to do questions. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Purpose, not performance. It's alignment. So
And yeah, riff on that for a second. Absolutely.
So in human design, and when you're using this assessment in purpose, there are actually several different aspects of it. And one is your profile line, another is your incarnation cross. It doesn't tell you who you are, but it tells you how energetically what your leanings are, like what interests you. And I don't think I've ever, and I don't, maybe I'm just going to say this and you can make a liar out of me, Nicole, but I don't think I've ever shared these things with someone that they didn't go, oh my gosh, yes, that's me. Oh my gosh, yes, that's me. And it's just kind of a starting point to understand, wow, okay, so if you really enjoy public speaking, or you really enjoy creativity, or you really enjoy singing, or you really enjoy, and it doesn't get that specific, but if you really enjoy this contribution in the world, how much of that's in your life? Is there any part of that?
Right.
So understanding, like, that's the part where it gets disconnected from passion and purpose. So and we get into the doing, we get into the perfectionism. So for me, it's like, if you don't know these things about yourself and you don't know what it is that you want, how can you be incorporating that into your life? How can you be integrating things that actually light you up, that are not just more things for you to do? As opposed to once a month I have lunch with a girlfriend, or I decided to take a new art class or whatever. Those things are wonderful. Are they really touching on some of the things that are going to give you that relief, that are going to make you feel like you make a contribution? Because each one of us are here to bring something wonderful to the world that only we can bring. I truly believe that. So when I work with clients, it's not just a matter of like, yes, I want you to not suffer. I want you to find joy. I want you to find your worthiness. But also, when we're not in a place of doing that, then we're not contributing to the overall, to the community. And heaven knows our world today, I believe, is in dire need of someone, all of us, to show up with our gifts. Because we're each different. We're each bringing something to the world in general that only we can bring.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? When I remember sitting in my in some of my final classes right before I graduated in graduate school, and it was funny. Well, not funny, not funny. It seemed like everybody there either wanted to work in kind of mental health institutions, like group homes for autism, or they wanted to work in the prison system somehow. And I was the outlier, and I was like, there is no way I'm working in either of those settings. And I said, hey, I want to work with people who are like really high functioning and really, kind of insightful to themselves. I don't want to work with people to say, it might be a good idea if you take a shower every day and talk about life skills. Don't get me wrong, those are needed. I totally get that, and it's under the full umbrella of counseling. However, I did not like going to therapy myself and feeling completely misunderstood, or wink,
Yes.
wink, nod, nod, like I was somehow, kind of smarter than the therapist that I was with. And I didn't mean that deprecatingly. I was just like, I'm talking, a lot of high level theory and a lot of meta thinking about thinking. And yeah, I felt like I was dragging anchor with, my therapist that I was bringing along. So I was like, yeah, there's a gap here somewhere that I've got to figure out how to fill myself, you know,
Yes.
and and it's my take on therapy. 10 different therapists, 10 different takes, right? And same thing for you, your career, 10 different real estate agents, 10 different ways of doing it, 10 different CPAs, 10 different ways of doing it. And, you are, just as legitimately there as anybody else. So how do you want to use your gift? What do you want to use it for? right? It doesn't have to be in the lockstep way that everybody else does. And not that what they're doing is wrong, but you know what? It's your life. So, let's trust ourselves. We've got this thing with self-trust here, that what you're doing is good enough, right? What you're doing is good enough for you, and that's kind of all that matters. That's kind of all that matters. Everybody else can posit their opinion, but if it's working for you, then I think that's good enough. So yeah.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. I love that. And it's so true. It's about individually discovering like what your gifts, where you fit in, what you want to do, what lights you up, what you're passionate about, what gives you purpose. And it's like you were talking about the book Dopamine Nation. And I know that you're familiar with this. And I think we've talked about like Dr. Nicole Pera, who talks about like the way that we self-sabotage is that we have gotten so accustomed to the hormone release of adrenaline, of dopamine, that even when things are going well, and this gets back into what we're talking about with perfectionism, we will sabotage ourselves because we're seeking that, we're intrinsically, physically seeking that. And so when we get to a place where we're actually meeting some of the needs that we are looking for, we're actually getting to that passion and we're feeling like we have a purpose, I feel like that allows us to begin to address some of the physical attributes that go on with, saying yes when your insides are screaming hell no, or tried to tell yourself that something really wasn't important.
Mhm.
So yes, when you can look back on your life, and I think that, and I have so much respect for Nicole in this way, and we've talked about so many things in personal life, and I'm sure we would be happy to share with you at another time, but basically I think that that's the thing, when you can look back on your life without shame, judgment, guilt, and stop saying like, why didn't I see? Why did I? Why can't I? Why don't I? Because those questions are just going to get your brain to give you all the reasons and bring up all the failures. And when you begin to shift that, you can start to see your own path.
Yeah,
So
and let me jump in there for just 2 seconds. Only to say that as a therapist, believe it or not, I was trained, and the training is to never ask the question why, right? Why just doesn't matter.
thank you.
And I say that, and you're like, yeah, but we've been, asking why don't I feel good and why don't I feel this? Actually, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, I suppose, but the especially when it comes to hindsight, there were so many things that went into your decision making process. I tell people, rarely does a decision in your life pivot on one thing being true or not true, one context being evident or not evident,
Right.
or on one event happening or not happening. So it's easy to say, well, why didn't this? Well, because da 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 da. Very rarely is that the case. And so we're deluding ourselves if we think that we could have made infinitely better decisions, but for one event, one person, one incident, right? So, that why question, we can self-sabotage ourselves into oblivion, guilt, self-judgment, self-criticism, and all the shoulds that should have happened but didn't. It's so easy to do in hindsight with that why question. And so work with us, we'll get you out of that real fast. And wouldn't that be nice to just put that down, right? We'll get you there. We'll get you there.
I love that. I love the fact. Yeah, just get rid of that why question. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
just.
just
I was
put
thinking,
that down.
I was like, gosh, do I have like automatically that like called me into like accountability? Like, am I saying? What am I? No, no. But you're absolutely right. It's like in hindsight, the why is not relevant, and now sometimes it may make you feel better to think, well, I did this because, but really, I have a favorite expression. It's play the ball from where it is. And I know that gets back to sports analogy, but
Right.
you get to, it's all about moving forward. And so
Mhm.
we created the alchemy room together. This was kind of like my baby, my brainchild. And Nicole, I was so thrilled when I shared it with her, and she was excited about it. And it is a program. It will kick off. And Nicole is responsible for this on Labor Day, actually, because it is a 9-month program, and I talk about it in relation to pregnancy, like the first trimester, the second trimester, the third trimester. And so when we were trying to come up with a date that was reasonable where we could get everything together. She says, well, why not Labor Day? It'll be like birthing a child, because it is like birthing a new life. It really, really is. Like Nicole shared earlier, like she was doing everything at one time and then she thought, oh, I just need to do one thing. And so this was created with the concept in mind that we really I only want to work with women that, you know, that I can support, that I can bring something to. That's my mission. That's what gives me purpose. And Nicole feels very strongly the same way. And so we both kind of were like, really like to work with the intelligent women that really are in that place. You hit the nail on the head. Like the high achieving women, like we're looked at like we can just do it all. And so we keep doing it all. And being successful, being accomplished, being intelligent doesn't mean that you're not in pain. And it doesn't mean that your pain runs your life. Like so often we're so afraid to admit that because it's like, oh, well, that means I failed. I'm not doing it. And no, that's not what it means. It doesn't mean you made a mistake. It doesn't mean that life that you worked so hard to create is working out in the way that you thought it would. And so that is what we talk about in the alchemy room. That's the work that we do. And I have a lot of information about it. I'll be happy to send it to you. Um, and or as Nicole said, we're like chocolate and peanut butter. I love this analogy. So we both do work with people individually, of course. And I'm going to let Nicole share that story because she actually said that when we were talking about this presentation. I was like, oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. So we think that we're better together if you happen to like Reese's Pieces or Reese Cups. Um, and some people prefer chocolate and some people prefer peanut butter. And so there also will be information for you to be able to follow up, and we'll be happy to I guess to hop on a call or to discuss things with you guys. And we had set this up, Nicole. You got to remind me. We'd set this up for 90 minutes, and
We did, yeah.
we
So
were
we're at, yeah,
okay.
115 now. We're doing pretty good. Yeah, just a little bit about me in my practice as we kind of transition here. Yeah, you can reach me through my email address there. If you've ever been to therapy, I am not your typical therapist. I talk rather than asking you, well, how do you feel about that? I actually do talk and engage, and we have conversations. My big thing is that I do not want to keep you in therapy forever. And my goal is to work myself out of a job. And I do that by, doing an intensive, first 4 to 6 sessions. I want you there each week, and we're going to work really hard. And then we can see where you're at. A lot of times people are able to transition to once every couple of weeks. I can't tell you the number of clients that I am checking in with once a month. At this point, granted, I have, clients that I've been seeing for years, pretty on the regular, but I love it when clients, say, hey, I'm taking a break for a minute. I'm going to go live my life. And um, my, I love my boomerang clients when they come right back to me and they're like, hey, this happened. I want to go over it. I want to go through it. I'm totally there for that. So I'm that kind of therapist. So, whether you work with me and Kim, we're putting together a dynamic, intensive program that is, you know, I don't know about you, and I'm maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but Kim, one of the things I love about Kim, and I have had several one-on-one sessions with Kim, her voice to me is like velvet. It just to hear Kim talk and say the things in I've had so many sessions with her, and instantly I just feel better, right? So, Kim brings that, that beautiful side of that, comfort and feeling, and, and she'll hold your ears while I, do my explosive fireworks kind of thing, right? She'll be the one to kind of hold your ears. So that's how I think we go together really well. And I am thrilled to be creating this program with her. It is going to be better than anything I could have written by myself or, solo. So, this is going to be great stuff. So we would love to share it with you. But if you're not in that space and you just want to work with one of us individually, we're here for that too. So, either way.
Well, I could not have said it any better. Thank you. Thank you so much. So now I can tell the story. Like, actually, Nicole was teaching in this program, and I went up to her and asked her if we could meet afterwards and chat. So there was like an instant sort of karmic connection. This was like 7 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we kind of always had that exchange, and I have had the great pleasure of working with Nicole on some things, and because life happens. And I love the fact that you said I'm not your normal therapist, because because this is one of my favorite things to say. I said it this morning in a session, actually. I said, wait, let me be a coach and ask a question.
Yeah.
Because so often, I'm not that either. I mean, like I said, I was in a leadership program, and I consistently ranked like the lowest of all 27 of the leaders because I talk, because I'm sparked by what someone says, and because I didn't just give them like one line or so. So what do you think about that? So what's in the gap?
Mm-hmm.
So why are you doing that? I mean, because that's just not who I am. And
Right.
I love the fact that you brought that up, because that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you're amazing. I'm so excited about this. Like, I'm super excited about this program. That's the reason we're doing this live today. And before we even do it, so maybe we could do this, like, I don't know, like every couple of weeks or something. Maybe we could just we could do it more and more and more, because I would love to be available and even share some of the things that we're actually going to be doing in the program, but to answer questions. So today was kind of a kickoff, and we left some time at the end to answer questions. I had this thought. I mean, like, if you guys have questions, and this comes from my coaching, because I coach women like in relationships. And so sometimes some of the things that they want to share or ask are really, really confidential and personal. And so I had this thought, and you guys I'm going to stop sharing for a second. You guys can tell me if this, just a show of hands or put something in the chat, if like you want me to turn off like the Facebook Live. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little wonky about that. Maybe the questions are not that intimate. But I thought I would throw that out there, because something just came up and told me to ask that. So does anybody have a preference?
Or, if your question's, pretty convoluted or that confidential, you can always email us individually, right? And we can totally respond that way if, being in the group is a little bit too much. So cool. All right, fire away. If it's sensitive for you, don't ask the question, and we'll address it another way.
Just write to us.
But write to us right now. Tell us your deepest, darkest secrets if you feel like it, right? And we'll go with you wherever you want to go.
Yeah, or if there was something that we said that you wanted to know more about, or something that you didn't understand, please feel free.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Huh.
No, I haven't said anything just yet. Well, and I'm trying to think of any gaps of what we were saying, or where it may have been muddied or muddled for the how do you know? I guess, how do you know that you're not where you need to be? And what I will say is what I've seen in my practice lately, and Kim, you can comment too with yours. is I'm seeing a lot of burnout.
Oh yeah.
I'm seeing burnout, and people, especially, intelligent people, don't understand how burnout shows up or what it looks like. And gosh, and again, the dopamination thing, workaholism, um, work being its own reward type thing. Um, the burnout that I'm seeing is exhaustion, tears. I'm seeing a lot of tears these days when we're talking about work or having to go to work. I'm seeing a lot of tears. Um, what else? Low sex drive, low to no sex drive. If these people are, in the dating or partnered up, um, you know, just a general frazzle and monotone voices. I I have to go to work and I just don't feel like it, and I know what I have to do and I'm doing it, but it's that monotone, right? So if you feel if that's kind of popping up for you, it might just be burnout. And burnout is something that we can address for sure. So yeah.
Yeah, I want to add to that. I want to jump on there because that's a perfect question. And then, yeah, Patty, I did see your question. And I will answer that too. But what you said was like, it's not just the monotone, but like, I don't know about you, Nicole, but like I've had clients where I would say something and they would defend why they had to do something in that same monotone voice. So it wasn't just like I have to go to work, but I don't want to. It was even like, no, but work is great. No, but my family is great. No, but everything is good. No, but it was a total, like almost a disconnect from like what they were living
Right.
and what they
Mhm.
were allowing themselves to think about what they were living, if that makes
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. Yeah, work is fine. I'm showing up every day. I'm not calling out a lot. I hate it, but yeah, it's fine, right?
I mean, but your work's
Yeah.
not supposed to be any fun. And yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, but so I've been married 25 years, so it's not that exciting anymore. But and and yes, there are waves and we do things, but it's like literally like they're just like, no, well, okay, so why are you here? I don't know.
Exactly. We do have a question. One of our lovelies wants us to talk more about the program we're working on together. So say more about it. Say more about it.
Will I
Say
get
more
more
about
excited? Will I get more excited? So I did add this, in all honesty, truthfully, I went through like burnout a couple of years ago and I didn't even realize it. So I'm real familiar with it now. I'm really attuned to it because I didn't understand. And I have not taken on actually individual clients in quite some time. I have just done like small group work. The program, and that's not to say that I won't, it's just that I made a conscious effort to kind of shift some of the ways that I was working. The program actually is 9 months and it is, I call it a pod. There will be 3 women in a group. So there will be 3 women plus me and or 3 women plus Nicole. And we may, interchange some of the things and we will teach a concept basically like every month. And so there is self-study work where you're going to be introduced to all of these different concepts that we talked about. And we kind of broad brush and we really generalize today, but we really break it down into how you get to go from where you are right now to being passionate, to knowing your purpose, to not being locked into perfectionism. And the small groups will meet, and then there will be individual work as well. But it really kind of follows a systematic sort of program that takes you through different steps of understanding what those processes are. So, like for example, Nicole just mentioned burnout, and so there is, there's a whole section about that. But it's like, how do you know the signs? How do you understand when this happens? Where does this go? How do you do this? And so it really is for me, it's all about like you're here and you don't even know why you're here, but there's something that's just not quite working the way you want it to work. And so we kind of take you from that concept all the way through the program. And um, gosh, I'm doing this off the top of my head, but like I said, we'll meet in very intimate groups so that you have a personalized connection. Go ahead.
Kim will bring her depth of knowledge around human design. Everybody gets their human design chart run, and you know, you will understand it soup to nuts. You'll get what is going on that thing. Because I looked at it and I was like, y'all, it looks complicated, but Kim knows it frontwards and backwards, so she will be able to explain it to you. It is a very cool tool to use in terms of self-discovery, right? So she's bringing that piece and all of her leadership stuff and all of her, you know, all of that piece. Then I'm bringing the clinical side. I'm going to bring personality testing. I'm going to bring, you know, all of the psychotherapy part. And you know, how do we make the group? Somebody said, we're gonna see who shows up first of all, how many we have and how many groups we need, and you know, we're probably gonna run your human design chart and you know maybe do the personality bit in the beginning. So you know, with that information, I don't know about you, Kim, but I think that'd be a great way to try and group people if possible. You know, and I think we're going to do, are we doing rolling admissions? Meaning
Yes.
like, you know, so it doesn't have like an official kickoff date and you have to be there or otherwise you miss out, right? So we're going to do, you know, some rolling admissions. So, you know, hopefully, you know, the groups will, we'll have several, you know, groups of three, and or I don't know. Hopefully we're just thronged with people. That's what we're hoping, right? And you know, so maybe we'll go up to groups of 5, you know, if we have to, but you know, we want to keep it small just so that we have lots of interaction, lots of, you know, time for people to be able to spend. So that's kind of where we're at with the program and what we're bringing to the table there.
Thank you, Nicole, for summing that up. And again, I will happily, you will get this recording, and I failed to put in the link for the information page about the program that actually goes into more specifics. It actually has an outline and talks about the different things. So thank you for because I just felt like, yeah, we're just going to do this. It was perfect the way you did that. And yeah, that's exactly true. I will talk to you a lot I will be bringing everything about your human design and helping you to understand how you energetically move through things and probably how you relate and connect. And then Nicole is going to bring in all of the scientific, all of the information, all of the therapy, psychology background. And that's a great question about how we're going to make the groups, because it's true. It really does depend on who shows up. It is a rolling enrollment, meaning that when we have 3 women, like if we start off with 3, then that's when we're going to create a group. We're not going to create a new pod until we have 3. So there may be some waiting periods, but the idea is that you should be able to join whenever. The lessons, classes, whatever, will be pre-recorded, the written work, which you get to return to us. And then whenever your group starts, then we'll actually start the actual like coaching sessions and meeting with clients and things like that.
Very cool. And yeah, so you get kind of 2 for 1, right? The best of both worlds. You get the coaching relationship, human design part of things, and you know, all the therapy side of things too. So it's a great conglomeration, in my opinion. You know, that comes together in a structured, I have to have it structured. Kim is very ethereal at times, and I'm sitting here going, I need 1, 2, 3. So I will keep us there, I promise. For all of those of you out there who are like, I need to know XYZ. No. And so yeah, we balance each other really well that way.
That's why she said, okay, we need to keep on time here. Like we want to have questions. Yes. We got it. And it's perfect because yes, I am very ethereal. I do a presentation because that helps me to remember what it is that I want to share with you and not go in 5 different directions, because it's very possible for me to do that. And I have fun doing that. It brings out the best of me. And when you guys ask questions, it actually triggers like responses. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Okay.
Are we coming up on, yeah, we're probably coming up on time, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah,
Have to-
it's almost
It's
20 after, and
20
so
after, right? Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I can talk. I mean, I can talk. I
absolutely.
I got the talking part down. And I can always talk about things like this. But yes, if you guys have other questions or you have comments, we're happy to hang on. And if not, then yeah, we know that you
Yeah,
probably have to get on with your day and see what's happening.
very cool. Very cool. You were an
Thank you
absolute awesome.
both.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you for coming by. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Tech support and all the good stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya. Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you,
Joanna. Thank you. Hey, Joanna.
Joanna.
Yeah, that was Joanna.
I
think
know,
she
I
said-
saw her. I mean,